If your last name is Chaplin, you should be running scared.
Oh my goodness.
And silently.
Why is that?
And probably kind of goofily.
Probably.
Because as of now, the Copyright Term Extension Act is an act that was passed. I can't remember exactly when, but the point is that it was like the late 90s, right?
Okay.
And it was an amendment to the Copyright Act of 1976, which basically said, copyright terms have been extending. They used to be like 20 years, then it was like 40 years.
Sure.
Basically to just be like, quote unquote, the life of the artist.
Sure.
And so that the artist, you could profit off of his or her own work and nobody else could. But it's understood that, certain things at some point should just be like Sherlock Holmes. It's
Right.
good that everybody can
Do Sherlock Holmes without
which
paying anything.
now we get into like TV and movie distribution rights, and
Right.
those aren't necessarily free. But you could create, you could write a Sherlock Holmes story. Nobody could really stop you.
Right.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff that is coming now due to be into the public domain.
Okay.
With the expiration of the copyrights, and the copyright, thanks to the CTEA, has been extended essentially to 95 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's all about hi.
Yeah.
Everybody down on the floor.
Yeah.
This is robbery.
Right.
Because Mickey Mouse was going to go
Right.
into open domain, which, unless a lot of people, so I've read a lot about this. It won't sound like it because I'm not talking very well about it. But a lot of people think that Disney will try to do another one.
Yeah. Sure.
Because Mickey will now, I don't know what the exact date is, but it's in the next 20 years or so. Mickey will go into the public domain. And a lot of people think that Disney either won't be able to get another extension or just won't bother, because this last one was real. It was granted to them, and of course they have plenty of money and they can lobby the hell out of it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people were like, okay, come on, what are we doing here?
Right.
We have to completely change, what we think of as the sort of normal, reasonable expectations of intellectual property rights. And, I understand, I get why Disney doesn't want Mickey Mouse to be
I get it
public
too.
domain. But at the same time, nobody's going to try to, there's still trademarks, there's still, copyright. Well, I guess this is copyright, but there's still, nobody's going to just make hey, kids, it's a Mickey Mouse cartoon.
Yeah.
It's going to be very clear that it's not from
Disney.
The House of Mouse
Yes.
itself. So I don't know what the big deal is. But anyway, Charlie Chaplin's films, specifically his film The Pilgrim, is now in the general copyright, as is really old songs like the Charleston.
Okay.
Or Yes, We Have No Bananas.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize that the Charleston wasn't already in public domain, but
Yeah.
I don't know who
even owns it.
Yeah, who
Well, they
owns
don't own it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Yeah.
probably not alive anymore.
The heir to the it's like About a Boy. If About a Boy was a tragedy instead of a feel-good comedy.
Right.
Hugh Grant's character, would maybe in the sequel we see that Santa Super Slay has now gone into the public domain. And so suddenly Nick's, I think his character's name's Nick.
I don't
the guy that wrote the book's named Nick.
Right.
Is losing all his money. He can't
Right.
just take baths anymore.
Right.
He's got to do something.
Exactly.
Now that Nick Holt, who plays the titular boy,
Right.
is all grown up.
Right. And doing
I really
his
wanted
own
About
movies.
a Boy too.
Do
I don't know
you?
if you got that. it's a
Fast
fun
forward.
movie.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot going on in that movie.
There is a lot going on. I would agree with that.
It's
for
one
sure.
thing to be like, well, this guy he really likes Arsenal, and he's also got romantic problems.
Right.
But then I guess a lot's going on in High Fidelity too. Are we doing a Nick Hornsby show? Is that what's going on
I don't
right
think
now?
we're doing a Nick Hornsby show. I thought we were doing a Paul Verhoeven show.
Maybe. Oh, well, thanks for just dropping it right out there. About a Boy was directed by Chris and Paul Weitz.
Okay.
They're American, so I'm going to say it's Weitz.
All right.
And they are filmmakers, writers, directors who have done not a lot of great stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, Some people get like one movie that's kind of
Well,
good.
they had one, and it was the Golden Compass, and that thing burned and crashed like a Zeppelin. So that didn't work out.
No,
but they also did American Pie, so that kind of made their bones
well,
for
that's
them.
different.
Yeah. So anyway, So I don't know. Maybe we'll do something with something that's open source.
All right.
Like an example would be like Nosferatu, the film, the Murnau film.
Yes.
Went into public domain in like the late 90s, and so you've seen like I think there was a fairly big budget one that Doug Jones was in, where they just did like a remake of Nosferatu. Ironically, Nosferatu itself stolen from Dracula.
From Dracula.
So
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, if Bram Stoker was a Dracula, he would be very upset in his coffin reading the news.
Of Nosferatu.
It's hard to turn a newspaper page inside of a coffin. But
yes, it is.
He's like, I can't believe this. First this, and now something else.
I need to bring my dirt over there and
so call the dirt guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta move my dirt around.
Yeah.
So anyway, like as you dropped, we are basically talking about Paul Verhoeven today.
Yes.
And I wanted to do it with a little more fanfare than that.
All right.
In the method that Paul would in his American films. But instead we did it like one of his Dutch films.
Sorry. I just dropped
we painted it like one of his Dutch films.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, we're talking about Paul Verhoeven, the director, writer, Dutch superstar.
Yes.
Pretty much the only thing, no offense, a lot of people are going to be crying into their weed, but probably the biggest film thing to ever come out of
the
old Netherlands.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of the Netherlands.
Okay, why?
How many names do you get for your country?
Yeah.
They're Dutch.
Yes.
They're the Netherlands.
Yes.
They're Holland.
Yes.
There's something about orange is real important.
Sure.
As a color.
Yeah.
A lot of identity for a tiny little country that's half underwater.
That's true. That is very true.
And it's all summed up in this man. Very, I think they're known as being pretty permissive. Mm-hmm. Just, from a societal perspective.
Right.
And they created, that land created a man who is very permissive cinematically.
Yes. Yes.
To put it, to begar the description.
Yes.
If that's not right at all. But
like,
the point is,
open-faced sandwiches and multiple sexual relationships.
No, that's Sweden.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of Stieg Larsson.
Yes, I am.
Although I'm sure there are plenty of open-faced sandwiches. You can hop a dike and go get a open-faced sandwich. No
that's
problem. Right. So we're talking about his American work.
Yes.
Mostly. Here are the films. We're talking about Robocop. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Total Recall. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about Basic Instinct.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Starship Troopers.
Yep.
You'll notice that I did not say Showgirls.
No.
We're just not going to talk about Showgirls.
No.
He is a satirist,
mm-hmm.
and I want to talk about his films where that worked.
Right.
And not a film where
it failed.
It was a disaster just on all accounts.
Yeah.
But we will be talking about Basic Instinct, so you'll get your Joe Esterhazy there.
Yeah.
Your fix. And then because we're skipping Showgirls, and also we're skipping his very first American movie, Flesh and Blood, mm-hmm. which I wish that we had watched.
Oh, okay.
In retrospect, but we've already watched quite a few.
Yes.
We'll be talking about the film that when Paulie came marching home, or swimming home, to Holland, he made a film called Black Book, mm-hmm. which was voted in 2008 the greatest Dutch film ever made.
Yeah, and I don't know how many
but
other
at an
films
expense
were made.
of 20 million euros or whatever it was.
Right.
It probably, it is definitely the most Dutch movie ever made.
Right.
Although I don't remember a single windmill.
No, I don't remember a single one either.
What the hell?
I don't know. No windmills were hurt during the filming of this film.
That would just be the perfect, like, a Nazi Messerschmitt strafes a windmill, bullet holes in the sail, but it turns on.
Yes, I like that. It's a good, powerful image, too.
Yeah, but instead of that, we get Carice Van Houten's tits.
Yes.
Which I would argue also a powerful image.
Yes.
So we'll be talking about that and a little bit of news. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Cal. It's our first show of the new year, so feeling pretty good.
New year?
Yeah.
Same us.
Same us. Yeah. But I think we have some good show ideas coming up, I think. So
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be quite exactly the same as us. We are working on quite a lot of new things this year, and I'm a little nervous. I just want to get through this.
Okay.
That's not a great recommendation. Keep listening. But this is, as we decided on this and we started kind of, watching the films and sort of talking about them, I realized for a person who I guess I don't know really well outside of interviews with him and whatnot, I'm realizing like how much his films like shaped me as a young film fan.
Sure.
And now I am older. I have more perspective and context, and I can look back and see that he was doing a thing, as we say.
Absolutely.
But you don't know that, when you're in your teens. You just think,
right.
Is this what it is? Am I supposed to like this film where a guy pulls an egg out of his nose? When you hear the crunch, you're there.
I know.
Like just this hyper violence and this sex and stuff like that. And for me, it was like this sort of lurid kind of like, should I like this? Is this okay? I think I like this, but it's like, oh boy, wow. Ooh,
yeah.
Fanning myself. What is going on? But we'll get to all that later.
For sure.
Let's talk about the news. Well, I got some news for you. A lot of the news has to do, as they always do, or it always does, with things that are coming up.
Sure.
Things that are in development.
Sounds
good. The development news. And one thing that I wanted to talk about was, and I think we might have mentioned this before on the show, but it looks like Amblin Television, that is Steven Spielberg's TV company,
right,
is going ahead with their plans to make a Rashomon TV series.
Okay. I could see that, but wouldn't you like run out of story like after the first season? Isn't it just kind of like a mini series more than a TV show?
In the film.
In the film, there was like maybe like what 4 perspectives
or
something like that.
Don't judge me. There are 3.
There are 3. Okay.
And then maybe the dog.
Right.
Roof, roof. Oh, he's right. He's right.
Dog vision. It's all in black and white. Yeah.
Yes. Well, this will be a 10-episode series.
Okay. Well, that means you have to have 10 different characters.
Yes, on a single event told from multiple points of view. I hope not 10.
Yeah.
But it could be.
I kind of feel like it is going to be. Or potentially what they could do is do 5 or so, and then like their stories continue in another episode or something like that.
So the slap off the top of my head, the first season of You're Having an Affair or whatever.
Oh, The Affair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this isn't new.
No.
You're just making
it's not.
a 10-episode cable drama.
Right.
It was what it sounds like.
Yes.
But they keep saying Rashomon, Kurosawa, introducing people to Kurosawa. So I don't understand how it's connected to, will they just be doing
film.
Rashomon, but in like a 10 will it be a period piece?
Right.
I don't think we know any of these details.
Are they doing it in Japanese? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. It will be a dramatic mystery thriller series.
Okay.
But again, a mystery thriller series that features deceptions and like different points of view. Right. You're making a TV show.
We've seen this.
This sounds
before.
like a TV show.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It'll be interesting. They're not being super clear as to how it will be related to Rashomon. I don't know. Like you said, this isn't something brand new. We've seen stuff like this before, so how are they going to make it different? How are they going to make it, quote unquote, new and tantalizing for people to watch?
Lightsabers.
Yeah. All right.
Future Rashomon.
Right.
The perspectives come from a VI, virtual integrated sort of, you're seeing like, oh, I'm seeing this, but then also you can go into somebody's brain and you're seeing it from their perspective. And
right.
Which has also been done.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like it's potentially an episode of Black Mirror.
He already made Minority Report, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But it won't be that.
No, it'll be different. So.
What a great movie. Let's remake it.
Yeah, I know.
Makes sense.
I know.
It looks like the Travel Channel has ordered a Ripley's Believe It or Not reboot.
Okay. I'm familiar with the books. I'm not familiar with the TV show.
So you don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
Well, it's still happening, whether you believe it or not. You're familiar with the books, you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What is the show like? Or what was the show
It's
like?
basic. I can't remember who hosted it. I'm sure it's somebody very famous that I should know, but I remember Believe It or Not.
Uh-huh.
It's not Robert Stack. He was Unsolved Mysteries.
Okay.
I'm Robert Stack.
Sure.
No, Bruce Campbell's going to host it.
Oh.
And the original TV show was just, here's a goofy thing, believe it or not.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Sure.
Now it's going to be, believe it or not, with a thump sound of a chin hitting a boom mic.
So do you try to trick people into thinking that it's something that's real and it's not?
I don't think there was ever any fake stuff, because that would kind of ruin your whole thing, right?
So
the
it's
whole thing
an
is,
actual thing.
whether you believe
it or not.
It is true.
Well, I bet there's going to be a lot of things from Florida on there.
Yeah. Isn't this just Imager?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't we, in the old days, you'd be like, that Eisenhower, I don't know.
Right.
What's this?
Yes.
Man ate his own head? Or what?
Right.
Right. But now you can just share that stuff in a Facebook
Imager.
post.
Yeah.
So,
This is true.
I want to see a scripted, Believe It or Not, series where Bruce Campbell is the host of Believe It or Not, but then his world is turned upside down when the real dog boy gets him involved in a murder. Go meta on it. That's what I say.
Yeah, that'd be more interesting, probably. So.
Well, believe it or not, that's not what it's going to be. Looks like the CW has given a pilot order for a Ruby Rose Batwoman series.
Okay. Don't we already have this?
We've seen her in the Elseworlds crossover.
Yeah. But I thought we already had an okay for Batwoman and Ruby Rose.
This is it. Maybe you're from an Elseworld where the time moves faster. But this is it.
I thought, so was she created just to be like part of some of the other series and not have her own series?
The answer is yes, but the way that CW works, the answer is no. She was created as a backdoor pilot for a put pilot order for the CW.
Okay.
Like
all right.
Barry Allen was on Arrow before he had his own show. This is just how they do it.
Okay. I guess I just thought this already happened.
So when we heard that she was cast and we reported on that, we should have just been like, I think that's what you were doing. You were like, well, then she's just going to have a TV show.
I must have just made that leap. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I thought we already knew this, but now we officially know it, I guess. So, all right.
Well, staying with Bat News, it looks like the Batman, the long delayed DC Comics film, is eyeing a November start for filming.
Okay.
Matt Reeves is still set to write and direct.
Okay.
There's no script that we know about, although I'm sure there's something in some stage.
Well, and we don't know if Ben Affleck is going to play Batman or not. Yeah, exactly.
So a little bit to do before November rolls around.
Yeah, I would say so.
We know it's not going to be an origin story, and it won't be an adaptation of Year One.
Okay. That's all we know. That's not a lot of information. It could be about anything. So, all right.
It might be about a girl who goes to college and she has to choose between two different guys, and then when they run out of stories, she casts a spell and goes back in time. Matt Reeves created Felicity.
Oh God. Okay.
Along with J.J. Abrams. So,
all right. Yeah. That show, like, whoa, where did that come from? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams has never done any time travel stories before.
Well, yeah, I know, but it just seemed like it was out of nowhere, right? So
yeah, it did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully it'll be a good movie because I love Batman, but I don't know. We'll see.
We will see. Maybe we won't see.
Yeah, it could just go up in smoke.
No way to know until we actually see.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting bit of news. Loki, remember the character Loki?
Yes.
He has a character of bio, as do all the characters from the films on Marvel's website.
Okay.
But if you read it closely,
his
biography on the Marvel website, you'll see that it says that he was gifted with a scepter that acted as a mind control device, But unbeknownst to him, the scepter was also influencing him, fueling his hatred over his brother Thor and the inhabitants of Earth.
Oh, okay.
This is a retcon.
All right, yeah.
To say that Loki's murderous ambition was
all due to the Tesseract?
Yes, and ostensibly Thanos.
Okay.
So that now he's clear to be a good guy.
Okay.
When he's in the Disney
TV
universe.
series.
Yes, or Disney Plus.
Yes.
Loki series
right.
that is being developed.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a pretty big retcon, first of all.
Do you know how many people Natalia Romanova has killed?
A lot.
Yeah.
Isn't that what makes her interesting, though?
Isn't that part of her character?
Yeah.
Isn't that why she does what she does?
Yeah.
Why do we have to take all those bodies off of Loki's tab?
I don't know. And I think he's more interesting if he's flawed and like kind of a bad guy. We still root for him because he's likable.
Bucky
despite
was
all that.
literally mind controlled.
Yes.
For his entire existence.
Yes.
And him feeling bad about all the things he did is still the one defining thing about his character.
Exactly.
So
I feel like you're taking
in fact, they should probably
away.
develop him beyond that at this point.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, that works and everybody loves him. So who?
Yeah, I know.
I'm hoping
everybody already loves Loki.
I'm hoping that some, it's just some junior editor got a little too excited and I'm hoping they don't do anything drastic with this. I'm
hoping they don't either. I don't want to see like Loki like doing all these do-gooder type things. Like, I think he's better he's the god of mischief, for goodness sake. I think he's better when he's sneaking around and doing stuff he shouldn't be doing. And I think he can still be a pretty darn good anti-hero. And, maybe even like maybe sometimes he does something that is kind of heroic, but not always, and certainly not most of the time. No, and not on Sundays. No, and I think he's way more interesting when he's flawed. And I think maybe even for the first movie, like, okay, Thor like trusts him in the beginning, and then he realizes he can't trust him, but I mean, it seems like they've always had like sibling rivalry, like ever since they were young. And their dad, I would say, would be a big part of that. He kind of pitted them against each other. So I don't know. I think he's way more interesting flawed. Yeah. I don't think that he's going to go all goody two-shoes all of a sudden. I certainly hope not. But yeah, hopefully, I don't know. Maybe they feel like the character is played out. Whereas I would say, as one of the characters who's been there pretty much from the beginning, you have done the work of him rehabilitating himself. Yes. Basically. Yes. We have a few snags in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. But at the end, he's right there with everybody else, ready to fight Cate Blanchett. Yeah, exactly. And so, and he even, I mean, we know now that he's not dead. Right. Because there's going to be a TV show. Right. Unless they'd make the TV show before dumb. That happens in Infinity War. Yeah. So anyway, it's the kind of short-sightedness that Marvel has not displayed in developing their characters. Yes. And I really hope they retcon this retcon. So that's how I feel about that. Yeah. Well, speaking of short-sightedness, Todd McFarlane, the creator of Spawn, was interviewed recently about the upcoming adaptation of Spawn, which he is directing. Oh, boy. And will star Jamie Foxx. Okay. And he has said specifically that it will have no joy. There will be no fun lines in it. It's going to be this dark, ugly 2 hours worth of movie. There will be no joy. Those are his words. Those were his exact words. Well, that sounds terrible. Like, what are you doing? Are you doing a DC film? He is, yes. He's counter-programming against Marvel. Like, Marvel, the likeness that Marvel adds to things is generally regarded as the thing that makes it succeed. Yes. It's the thing that makes DC movies succeed as well, as Aquaman has passed The Dark Knight Rises way as more the light. Most money-making DC movie ever. Yes, it has way more light. And just look at Shazam, too. Probably
that's down to China more than anything else.
I guess.
They love that crap. But yeah, but he's planting his foot as he always. Here's a guy who made his initial fortune by telling Marvel to screw themselves.
Right.
And then, like the guy who says, "I'll see you in hell," and then starts saying, "I'll see you in hell," over and over again until people get sick of it. Jim Carrey sketch from SNL.
Right.
He's just telling everybody to screw themselves his entire career.
Yes.
And it's never worked out ever since. He told Neil Gaiman to screw himself. Neil Gaiman sued him and won with the help of Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
It hasn't worked out. And so he has never learned. And so here he is telling the movie industry and audiences to screw themselves. This is going to be a sick ass, oh boy, the pillow starts smothering him. This is going to be a real deathbed.
Does he ever think about what the audience wants? It just sounds like he's just doing whatever the hell he wants, and everybody else be damned.
No, but again, it's the effect of being this sort of visionary creator. I'm not saying that Spawn was super great or clearly didn't have legs, but it fit at the time. It's what he wanted to make. He put it out there.
Right.
If he had done it 10 years earlier or later, it wouldn't have been a success, but it was the perfect thing for right then.
Sure.
And so instead of being realistic and being aware of the fact that he created something that was for a time, he thought that he knew what audiences wanted, and so he just kept making,
the wheel.
Well, he's like, oh, I've got my finger on the zeitgeist. It's like, no, I mean, you just made something that happened to fit into the zeitgeist.
Right.
We were ready to follow the adventures of a homeless, scarred, dead guy who has a shoelace in his face or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
That's what we wanted. We don't want that now.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get it.
I always used to get Spawn and Venom mixed up for some reason.
Well,
I don't know why.
He didn't create Venom, but he definitely popularized Venom.
Yeah.
So it's anti-heroes.
Okay.
It's the 90s.
Yeah, I know.
Well, speaking of people who don't know what they're doing with their properties, it looks like Warner Brothers has just directly bought the Rat Pack Dune Entertainment Library. So here's what that means.
Okay.
Rat Pack is Brett Ratner's production company.
Yeah.
While being a terrible person, he has also been sort of stealthily bankrolling huge movies, a lot of the DC Universe films, the Snyder stuff, Wonder Woman, Gravity was under his banner. And since his sort of exit from Hollywood, it's been a fire sale on Rat Pack stuff.
Okay.
And so this isn't a big surprise to anybody, but Warner Brothers has basically just footed the bill and just bought the distribution rights for all those films. So
okay.
Now they own them.
Okay.
And this is sort of like cutting the middleman, and the middleman in this case is Brett Ratner.
Well, I remember something about Gail, what's her last name, Gadot, like saying something like she wasn't going to work on Wonder Woman 2 underneath his banner or something like that.
Right. And although producers are often the sort of unsung heroes in Hollywood, and they are very, very
influential.
But instrumental to making these things, which we might find out when we talk about some of Mr. Verhoeven's films. That's the dime holding up. Gal Gadot's the dollar, and Brett Ratner's the dime.
Yeah.
So we got to get that dime out of there.
Yeah.
To get that dollar through.
This is true.
Even though nobody will remember her name in 6-7 years.
Oh, you think so?
Well,
she's not really done anything else.
Her entire thing is traded on her looks, and when she didn't look like that anymore.
I guess. Yeah.
I didn't create this world.
Yeah,
If Brett Ratner wouldn't bang her, then the game's over, right?
Oh my gosh.
Horrible.
That's terrible.
Okay, it's time. The Dutch master, Paul Verhoeven, and his films is what we're talking about today. What do you know about the life of Paul Verhoeven?
I don't know a whole lot. I know he was born in 1938 over in the Netherlands, so he lived through World War II.
Yes.
I know that his first films were done over in the Netherlands, and then he came over to Hollywood in the 80s. And was here for maybe like 25 years or so, and then went back over to the Netherlands. That's about what I know.
I don't think I'm sure he's got a house in L.A. still.
Probably.
I think he's left completely.
Right.
How come you can summarize an entire man's life, but when it comes to a movie, you're like, well, first words appeared on the screen.
I
the words were.
It's hard to be like to not like tell the whole story. I guess for me, for some reason.
Well,
I'll give it a shot.
Well, you did it with his life.
Okay.
Yeah, he was born in 1938, and his family moved to The Hague a few years later. So this is the very height of World War II.
Yeah.
Actually, not the height. It's the downward slope, but it's where we come in.
Right.
So that's the
it's
exciting
height,
part for us.
Yeah.
And The Hague, was the center of basically like the German command or whatever. So it was just getting bombed continually. So this 5-year-old Paul is growing up just with the bombs falling like every day.
Right.
So it's no wonder that a lot of his work has been dealt with war, destruction, violence, and specifically World War II. Mm-hmm. And his first like real success film in Dutch, Holland, Netherlands, got so many names, was a movie called Turkish Delight, which starred Rutger Hauer, another Dutch name that you should know, and a longtime collaborator with him. And they would go on to make a film called Soldier of Orange, which was a World War II film. And I've heard it described, we didn't see it for this show, but it's sort of like the male version of Black Book. Like it's about the Dutch resistance.
Okay, sure. And
it's very much, whereas Black Book is all about the moral grayness and flexibility of, these quote unquote heroes in this movement. It's just a more straightforward sort of thing. It's a sort of espionage kind of heroic thriller type thing.
Sure.
The kind of, neo-propagandist sort of thing. These guys were heroes.
Right.
And of course, he'd return to that with Black Book and say, a lot of these people weren't all that great.
Right.
A lot of them sucked.
Right.
And of course, that tone of deconstruction and satire is part of all of his work in Hollywood. It's like he came here and, again, I wish that we talked about Flesh and Blood, but we're going to start with Robocop.
Yeah.
And right away, this guy could have made a movie. What's your movie about? It's about a robot cop.
Yes.
How easy just to make it like the 2014 Robocop film, which was just, a action, guns, spectacular kind of thing. And yet this guy has been handed, $13 million, a lot for the time. And he goes, no, this is going to be super subversive.
Yes.
I'm going to say something.
Satire.
And I'm going to, and every single element of this is going to be, there won't be one thing in this that's not satire.
Yeah.
I just think that that's fascinating. I mean, I don't know how you say balls in Dutch, but he's got them.
Yeah.
He's really got
them.
Let's talk about Robocop, 1987.
Yes.
I mean, we must have talked about Robocop on the show, right?
I'm sure we have at some point.
People want to hear us talk about Robocop, but we're probably going to talk about it the least because it's Robocop.
I know.
What happens in Robocop?
Well, let's see. It takes place in Detroit.
Yes.
And a man named Murphy is out with his partner, Lewis, and he's new to their precinct. And they go answer a call, and backup is not going to be there for a while. And he gets shot to smithereens by Clarence Boddicker and his gang. And they swear they, killed him. And, Lewis is, she gets, basically discombobulated and is, got the wind knocked out of her. And then she moved to
Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the story is over. See?
Right, yeah.
This is the third scene of the film.
I know. So basically...
He's turned into a robot!
OCP turns him into a robot.
Yes.
And they thought they erased his memory, but that was not the case.
They were wrong.
Yes.
He's part man, part machine.
Yes.
There's a lot of cop.
There's a lot of cop. He basically goes seeking revenge on his own death.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the movie.
It's a Western.
Yeah.
It's a Western.
Mm-hmm.
It down to, the end when the showdown and he shoots the guy and then the guy's like, nice shooting, son. What's your name?
Right.
And the Besa Polidorus score, which it sounds like it could be in The Searchers or something like that, except for the industrial clanging sort of sounds that are clearly he heard robot, I can do robot.
Yeah.
Clang, clang. Yeah. But yeah, the whole thing is but in addition to being that, it's also a satirical indictment of consumer culture, of like it presents violence, but it's sort of like it's Paul Verhoeven. It just has 2 fistfuls of cake, and he's rubbing it all over his face, and he's definitely ingesting it.
Yeah.
It's a commentary on violence while
being
having
violent,
just splashed with blood and gore.
Yeah.
And it's all those. It's an indictment of capitalism and like just the fact that a company owns a city.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. And then I'd buy that for $1 guy.
Well, they bought it for more than $1. But
yeah. Right, exactly.
And it's also got, like a lot of his movies do, like this subtle commentary about like, it's like Star Trek. It's like the future of Star Trek. Oh, guys and girls, we're all the same. That's cool on Gene Roddenberry's show. Mm-hmm. Paul Verhoeven makes everybody shower together.
Right.
that's true equality.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
there's a shared locker room.
All right, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and something that I noticed, and I guess if we ever do go back and look at his Dutch films, we did one of them, but not all of them, mostly his Hollywood stuff. This he's a really good filmmaker.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is not just, like, does he have anything besides satire in him? Well, when we get to Black Book, you'll find out.
Right.
He's got that down, but just like his possession of the camera, the way it moves, the way that he sets up shots. Robocop, there's a lot of these scenes where we see POV scenes because it's what Robocop sees.
Right.
But establishing that is what Robocop sees, and the way that he presents, he hides Robocop when we don't see him.
Yes. We see his
full
perspective.
On. Yeah, we see him from the view of the people who he is supplanting and replacing, basically.
Right.
That sort of thing. He doesn't do a lot of crazy like camera moves in this. Like he'll do that later on, but he shows a lot of I think facility in just the way that he uses the camera, and that gets splattered and with blood and covered up by all the violence and sex in his films. But it guy's like a really talented filmmaker.
He is.
I don't even know what to say. What do I even say about RoboCop? You say something about RoboCop.
I mean, I would say, and I think you said this. It's like a near perfect film. It just, the action keeps rolling. The story starts and we hit the ground running, and things just keep happening. And there's nothing that's just like air or dead weight or anything like that. And I think another thing that makes this movie so great is RoboCop is awesome, but Clarence Boddicker is like the perfect villain too. Like he is just downright evil and like will shoot you up, no questions asked. He wants what he wants and he's going to get it. And I think that what makes a really great hero is also having a really great villain.
Yeah. And
we have that in this film.
We have more than one villain.
We do.
We have 2 villains.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Ronnie Cox.
Ronnie Cox, the big bad at OCP.
And, I think that are we going to compare everything to Black Book? But the moral ambiguities of Black Book are based solely in the actions of the characters. Mm-hmm. Like here's our spoilers for Black Book, I guess. You have characters who serve as good guys. Their function is they are completely on our protagonist's side.
Yes.
Up until the point where it's revealed that no, they've been bad guys the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
And none of their actions make any sense.
Right.
Whereas in this film, you have everybody is acting in their own self-interest except our heroes. But yet there's an ambiguity that still makes you like Bob Morton is an asshole. Mm-hmm. Like he is a terrible person who doesn't care about stopping that lady with the horrible wig from getting raped in an alleyway.
Right.
He just wants his product to succeed. But at the same time, you start to identify with him because unlike Dick Jones, he's kind of a straight dealer. Like he will, straight dealer. I mean, he'll screw you, but he's got this product. He wants to succeed. All he wants to do is just have a Coke party once he succeeds.
Right.
And then he is like just brutally like murdered by Boddicker at the order of Dick Jones. And you're like, well, he didn't deserve that. I mean, he's an asshole, but he didn't deserve
what
to
he got.
Get blown up in his own house.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now it's time to erase that mistake.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so there's just like you said, like there's nothing is wasted.
No.
In this film. A film which is not that long. It's 102 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think you could make an action movie like this for only 102 minutes in today's sort of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And
I think it was definitely a product of its time, for sure.
Well, it's a product of the 80s.
Yeah.
It's like commenting on the 80s, and the 80s are like, well, we're not done yet.
Right.
When the ball drops, when Tango and Cash's balls drop in that prison shower,
right.
That's when the 80s are over.
Right, exactly.
But you've got these great moments that follow Murphy, as Robocop's story, and notice that he doesn't have a partner. It's all about partners. It's really important.
Yeah, he just drives by himself.
But he doesn't have a partner.
No.
He's out by himself. So he has nobody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't talk to himself because he's a robot.
Right.
He doesn't have like an inner monologue. And so you get that great scene where he goes back to his wife's house.
Yes.
After she and his kid have moved out after Murphy's death. And then you see the robot real estate agent giving him the tour, but then Murphy's having these like flashbacks, which are like memory programs that are running, in his robot brain that sort of meld into the thing. And as it goes, you see him get angrier and angrier. And you can't. Peter Weller's performance for a guy who's literally not supposed to have any emotions is great. I compare it to all the honor and glory that Brent Spiner's got over the years, playing Data.
Yeah.
But it's like the same thing. And he went through a lot in this movie because, of course, the suit is like 100 pounds. It's a nightmare to wear.
Right.
And apparently he hadn't done much before this. He was kind of unknown. Mm-hmm. But he was chosen specifically because he's like tall, but he's lithe and sort of slim.
Sure. Yeah.
Which he is, clearly. Because they had initially looked at other actors who were like, bulkier. Rutger Hauer was looked at for this, but he was just too big. So when Rob Bottin, that's an important name you're going to hear a couple times in this show, was designing the suit, they're like, he can't fit through doors. Already Peter Weller couldn't actually get into a car. Whenever you see Robocop pull up, we cut away to the people going, "Oh no, it's Robocop!" And then you see a guy just standing up out of a car because you could not get in a car. But but the suit was really big, and they didn't know how big it was going to be, and so Weller had trained with like a mime or like a dance instructor for how they wanted to like move as a robot.
Sure.
And it was going to be totally different. He was going to be sort of like more, because apparently this was like based on, and I was not familiar with this, but it was based on like a Japanese comic book character. Space Sheriff Gavan. Or he was like it was like a Sentai type thing.
Sure.
Like a Power Ranger thing.
Sure.
So he was going to be a little different. Like he was going to move faster and be different. And then he got into the suit, or at least like one of the early prototypes of the suit before they started filming, and went back to his mime guy. And he's like, "It's all different. We got to change it all."
Sure.
Because none of them, he couldn't do any of the moves that he had practiced.
Okay.
So they had to go back to the drawing board and come up with the sort of
stilted
plodding,
way that he
sort of robotic way that he ends up moving, which is great.
Yeah. I think it's great too.
It's so consistent too, like because you never catch him not doing that.
Yes,
and you get the idea that you could beat this guy by dropping a bunch of girders on him because he's just not quick enough to get out of the way.
Well, that's true. And I think you mentioned the music before. I think it's really great in this film. Like he has his own theme that's really catchy.
The leitmotifs are
and I think helps move the plot along really well too. And then just a really great scene. This is maybe apropos of nothing, but just a really great scene is when he catches up to Clarence in the factory and he just throws him through all those glass walls.
Yeah.
It's just really great to see cinematically and like.
Yeah, and when it's
just fun.
It's both sort of tough. It's both complicated and simple at the same time, because it's basically like you said. You could see this if you took the robot out and it was just Clint Eastwood is maybe Dirty Harry or maybe a different cop,
right? And
he's shot in the head and everybody thinks he's dead, but he gets better, but he's not on duty, and so he goes out and he takes out these guys one by one. Like that's what this is.
Yeah,
only he's a robot instead, and so you get the thing where you make everything explicit with the idiom that you've picked. So, we've got plenty of movies where a character finally confronts the person who has killed their wife or ruined their life or whatever, but then they have to restrain themselves from killing them because it's the wrong thing to do.
Right.
But Robocop literally has a directive that tells him,
he can't
don't do that.
Kill anybody at OCP.
Yeah, and then while he's doing that, he's also kind of interrogating the guy, and the guy's like, it's Dick Jones. I work for Dick Jones.
Yeah.
So in the cop movie, he's like, he told me that he works. I'm going to go talk to Dick Jones. But RoboCop has a literal recording of that because he's a robot.
Right.
So he plays that later.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just great. Like the way that it takes its ridiculous premise completely seriously and plays it totally straight, except for the ridiculous commercials about Nukem and stuff
right.
like that.
Right.
That's just like, that's getting, cinnamon twists with your order. Like, that's just a fun extra thing.
Yeah.
Which apparently I think they had always planned to do that stuff, but they really doubled down once Verhoeven realized, we're getting an X rating for this. Like, they give X's out for using butter as lubricant, for like sex,
right.
which I can't believe I'm not getting in trouble for in this movie.
Right.
But it got an X rating and had to be recut like 11 times before they could finally get an R.
Oh, really?
Just for the violence.
Oh, my gosh.
And so he knew that was going to be a problem and that people would see this as a real dark and gritty thing when he didn't want that. He wanted to make commentary, but he also wanted it to be fun, popcorn.
Right.
And so he had to stick these things in
that were
specifically
fun
as anecdotes antidotes to the horrific violence that was going on. A guy's hand gets blown off.
Yes.
But then also, boing, this dinosaur thinks that car's huge.
Right.
It's a really big car.
Yeah.
It gets 8.3 miles to the gallon.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God.
Joe Cox's laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk the entire show, it'd just be Robocop.
We could.
So is there anything else you want to say about Robocop? Just get it out.
I think it's neat that like Lewis figures out that he's Murphy like right away because he like flips his gun like how Murphy used to, and then she really wants to help him.
Which is, that's such a, and again, it just services the entire thing because this is a kind of a Western. Yeah. So you have the character do that. Mm-hmm. It's because of TJ Laser or whatever.
Right.
But then it's also the thing that, not only tells her, because she recognizes his chin, I assume.
Right.
But also tells her he's in there somewhere.
Yes.
It's you.
Like he has some memory of being Murphy still.
Why is it super important that she convinces him that it's you? To just get him back? Or?
I don't know. Like maybe to regain his humanity a little bit.
Right, but why is it on? Everybody in this world is pretty cynical, and they all have to worry about getting shot 47 times in their daily jobs. So why is it important to Ann Lewis that she reawakens Murphy?
Well, I think she feels
it's good that she does. She feels responsible for his death.
Yeah,
because she had to look at a guy's dick instead of covering him.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, I know.
That's probably the one. That's
the one thing.
That's the chink in the robotic armor here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I know.
It's a little weird.
It is a little weird.
And it's the black character.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You pointed out, this is Orion Pictures, eh? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's Orion Pictures. I thought we'd stop and talk about Orion Pictures real fast.
Okay.
Orion Pictures was an amazing, amazing film company that gave us so many things.
Okay.
Before its untimely end.
Demise.
Yeah. An untimely end that was... well, let's talk about its successes first.
Okay.
Let's talk about its successes first.
Okay.
Here's some films that came out of Orion Pictures. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Amadeus.
Okay.
Platoon.
Mm-hmm.
Dances with Wolves.
All right.
Silence of the Lambs.
Sure.
What's something that those 4 films have in common?
They're violent.
Amadeus?
Well, I guess Amadeus isn't. They're considered classics.
You killed my father. They're all Best Picture winners.
Oh, I did not realize that. Okay.
Yes. Here's some other films. Hannah and Her Sisters.
Okay.
Mississippi Burning.
Sure.
Some other ones. Bankruptcy, and we're going to talk about Bankruptcy a lot when we talk about Paul Verhoeven's films. Not because it's not his fault, but sort of woven into the story of Hollywood. Orion Pictures was formed partially from like Warner Brothers and also some people from United Artists. United Artists was also a successful film studio that basically fell apart after Heaven's Gate. which was a huge
Oh.
flop.
Okay.
And so United Artists, I think, stuck around still, but not really in the same form. And so it kind of came together, and it was just they're making Hoosiers, they're making Platoon, they're making a bunch of different things, and they're making UHF.
Sure.
Didn't really help though. The Hotspot. Mm-hmm. Do you like the Hotspot?
I don't remember the.
Oh no, wait. You Boy and His Dog. That's the Don Johnson movie that you've seen.
Yeah.
And so it's weird because they had all these films and apparently just weren't making they had a couple flops, but
sure.
I don't know, just things kind of fell apart.
Okay. Well, do we know how they fell apart, or they just?
Well, I don't have the books in front of me.
Okay. All right.
But for a long time there, they were really pretty much at the top, and they were making amazing films.
Yeah.
And then they made stuff like they basically had money problems. They got reorganized and kind of came out of bankruptcy and made RoboCop 3, Clifford, the Car 54, Where Are You?
Okay. With
movie.
Lindsay Lohan or something like that?
Was she in that?
I thought she was. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
I mean, I know Fred Gwynn wasn't in it, but
okay.
no, it was like a David Johansen movie or something like that.
Okay.
Not great.
No.
So, Buster Poindexter.
Okay.
So, not great. What, your Buster Poindexter movie failed?
Yeah.
But anyway, for a shining brief time, you knew that when you saw Orion Pictures, this is going to be a good movie.
Okay.
It's good. It's a good movie.
All right.
Yeah.
That's too bad that they kind of fell apart. But...
Yeah. And we're going to talk about Mario Kassar and Carol Co. Pictures in a little bit. But let's move on to a Mario Kassar movie.
All right.
Also directed by Paul Verhoeven.
Mm-hmm.
Screenplay is written by Ronald Shusett, Dan O'Bannon, who created Alien.
All right.
And also Gary Goldman, who's a screenwriter and has worked on a couple different Verhoeven projects. It's a movie called Total Recall.
Yes.
Based on a Philip K. Dick story called We Can Remember It For You Wholesale.
Sure.
Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
And some other people that you don't know, and some other people that are in Paul Verhoeven movies.
Yes. Yes.
What happens in the old Total Recall? Can you remember?
Yeah. I can remember. So Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Doug
Quaid?
Yeah.
Quaid?
And he's kind of unsatisfied with his life. He's like a construction worker, I think somewhere on Earth. I don't know, it's a futuristic society, but he always has these dreams about that he's on Mars with this brunette lady and he's married to Sharon Stone.
Demure and sleazy.
Yeah, I know. So he hears about this place called Recall on the train.
Recall.
Yes, and they can give you vacation memories. Like you can go to Mars there, and they're like, oh, you could be a special agent if you want. And he's like, well, that sounds great to me. And then he picks his ideal woman, and it's a brunette who's sleazy and demure, as you said. And he goes,
which is funny because the three options, and come on, I don't know anything about digital pimping, but you're going to need a little more than three. All women can be one of three things,
I know, right?
Or a combination of two of them.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that the one he doesn't pick is athletic when all he does is just drink nut shakes, protein shakes, and powder and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then his wife is apparently into fitness too, because all we see of her is, well, she banging Arnold Schwarzenegger, and she's playing tennis. In a
virtual thing,
leotard type thing.
Yes.
So it's a very sporty kind of thing.
Yes.
If this was remade now, I know it was remade now, they'd have a lot of athleisure wear.
Yes.
But anyway,
that
so he does
go
not
through my
pick
head.
what his wife is at all.
No, he does not. And something goes wrong before they even implant the memories of him being a special agent. He's like, get out of here.
You blew my cover!
Yeah, exactly. And they're freaking out, and they inject him with stuff and try to erase his memories and get him in a cab, get him out of here.
In a Johnny cab.
Yeah. And they
never heard of Douglas Quaid.
Yes.
Robert Picardo, voice of the Johnny Cab.
Yes. And honestly, I think they modeled the way it looks after him a little bit.
I can see it. That guy is all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knows him now as the Doctor from Voyager, but he had been doing so much. Had always been around. In many of the films that we've seen for this show, The Howling. He was in Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
The Howling, Rob Bottin, again, who also does special effects on this movie as well.
Yes. So he goes back home and he's like, they're trying to kill me. And
Help me from work.
Yeah. And she's like, what are you talking about? Tell me what's going on. Exactly what's going on. And then like he goes in the bathroom, he comes out and she's like shooting at him.
It's the exact plot of the movie.
Yeah, I know.
We could get sued under the copyright.
All
because
right.
60 years have not gone by yet.
Come on. So he gets a suitcase from a guy and it includes like a message from him.
Who is nobody?
No.
I'm not sure. I'm probably supposed to recognize that actor. I don't. But that guy never comes back.
Nope.
And is not important in any way, which is one kind of weird thing.
Yeah.
You'd think that that would be... I don't know how it would end up being like George or you know, Dean Norris's character or something like that. Maybe he's got a hood over his face or something.
Right.
You think that would have some connection. That's just some guy.
Yeah.
And then we find out later that this whole thing is a huge con job, you know, done by Hauser himself.
Yeah.
So that guy's a big loose end to me. Like, does that guy still work for Cohagen too?
Probably not.
So he's just...
He probably got shot or something.
Oh, the mullet guy?
Yeah.
You think that he was actually part of the resistance, and so he was duped as well. And so Hauser said to him, like, I'm going to, you know, if I get in trouble on Earth, I need you to bring me this suitcase because this is for the good. This is for Mars.
That's what he said
idiot.
anyways.
This dipshit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I feel bad for that guy then.
Yeah, I know.
He probably got killed by Michael Ironside off camera.
Probably. So, yeah, he gets a message from himself as Hauser, who's a special agent. And he's like, get your ass to Mars.
Get your ass to Mars.
And it pretty much takes off from there. And Michael Ironside is chasing after him.
So you just like to set it up and then you go. And then the hilarity begins.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
As long as there's an end in sight. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yes. So, funny story about this film. This film is a Carol Co. Pictures release. Mm-hmm. Carol Co. is another one of those things that's like, if Orion is going for the Mississippi burnings and the best pictures, then Carol Co. just wants to rock your face.
Okay.
That's why they deliver films like Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Total Recall, Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
The Rambo.
Right.
That's Carol Co.
Okay.
A lot of James Cameron, a lot of high octane.
Yes.
Kind of like the Bruckheimer films before Bruckheimer was around.
Sure.
And then, of course, it all fell apart thanks to Showgirls. And also Cutthroat Island. Okay. Cutthroat Island was a massive bomb that basically destroyed one of the funnest, coolest production companies around.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because so Mario Casar is this like big Hollywood producer guy. So is Dino De Laurentiis.
Sure.
And originally, he had the rights to this.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was being developed with the guys from Alien.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I think Dino, I can't remember if Dino had any involvement in Alien or not. I don't think so. But anyway, I do know that Roger Corman passed on making Alien, and then of course Alien became huge, and then he made his own movie called like Alien Intruder that was a ripoff of Alien. But anyway, so they were developing the movie, and it was kind of bouncing around. It wasn't really getting any traction, and if you read about Dan O'Bannon, he's a real creative guy, but he's a contentious guy.
Okay.
He fights a lot with like the producers, and he wants it his way. And even now, like if you talk to him about Alien, he's like, "Alien's crap. Like I could have been better if you'd gone with my ideas."
Okay.
Okay, dude. Okay.
All right.
But anyway, De Laurentiis couldn't get this thing made. He brought David Cronenberg in at one point.
Okay.
And some of David Cronenberg's input did make it into the film. I'm not sure what it was, and he was not given any credit, so we'll never know. And eventually, Dune crashed and burned at the box office. That was De Laurentiis' idea.
Okay.
So he basically just said, screw it. Like, I don't want to do this movie anymore. I'm out of sci-fi.
I don't want to do sci-fi
yep.
anymore.
And that's when Arnold Schwarzenegger was able to step in.
All right.
He stepped in. basically like bought the rights, or just having him attached meant that this was going to get made.
Sure.
And he personally picked Paul Verhoeven.
Really?
Well, he had read for Robocop.
Okay.
And the Robocop was a modest smash, but still a success. It was like, yeah, give me that. I'm Austrian. Give me that Dutch guy.
Yeah. Okay.
So once Verhoeven came on, that brought Gary Goldman, that brought Ronnie Cox, that brought all the...
Rob Bottin.
Yep, Rob Bottin came along.
Okay.
I was just thinking, like, the name of the bad guy in the film is Vilos Kohagen, which is, like, the Duchess name I could think of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of how that all came about. And then they just went to Rob Bottin and went, go nuts.
Right.
We're going to need a bunch of Arnold Schwarzenegger heads going...
And one lady's head going...
2 weeks. Right.
Yeah.
This also received an X rating when it was initially cut together.
Okay.
So they had to kind of work around
Probably due to
that.
all the violence.
Yeah. It was hugely successful. It made about $260 million on a, it's probably about around $60 million budget.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's huge.
Yeah.
$60 million in today money would be like probably 140 million. And $261 million would be like 600,
Sure.
700 million.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
We're talking Aquaman money here.
Sure. Yeah.
What do you think about this film? I think it is not trying to do the same thing as Robocop.
Yeah.
But it is not quite as successful as Robocop.
Yeah, I think there are some like flaws in the film, but I do think it's largely entertaining. I do think it's a great sci-fi film. I think they really took Philip K. Dick's story and ran with it. It's kind of a spy thriller thing as well. I really like how Sharon Stone's character like turns on him. That was a nice, surprise and everything. And there are other people turning on him like later in the film, like Benny the cab driver, like you thought was like a good guy, and he's even a mutant, and then he turns on him.
Yeah. He's got 5 kids to feed.
Yeah. Then he changes it to 4, and then he's like, I'm not even married. Yeah. So, I think
here's something that you can respect.
Yeah.
Here's the difference between this and Robocop to me.
Okay.
Robocop is, for its ridiculous premise, very simple.
Yes.
As we said before. Whereas this is just a collection of and thens.
I wouldn't
it's
disagree
just like,
with
It's
that.
great because it starts off, I'm a construction worker, to I just terraformed Mars into being able to support human life. Like there's an acceleration. It goes to 11.
Yes.
But it just continually goes to 11. And I think it's paced okay, but it never, ever stops to the point where eventually these reveals become meaningless. Like Benny's helps him out for a while, and then suddenly Benny's evil.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
I'm going to drill you, sucker. Like,
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, it's just one more thing. He's vanquished. Him attacking with a drilling machine, which was set up before,
Yes.
breaks open the wall that allows them to get to the next part.
Yes.
The next thing. And then the big bad guy, Ronnie Cox.
Just shows up
Not
with a
that
gun.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And there are little touches of interesting kind of stuff. Like, I like the fact that, like you said before, Clarence Boddicker, also one of the most Dutch names I've ever heard,
Yeah.
is like the ultimate bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
His glasses are supposed to make him look like Himmler, according to Paul Verhoeven.
Right.
But then poor Richter is like totally different. Like, Richter's not a good guy either. He shoots a rat. He just wanted to eat that Milky Way.
Yeah, I know, right?
Or Three Musketeers.
Whatever.
A lot of nougat.
Yeah.
But he's like a dyed-in-the-wool company man, and like when
That's
like
true.
Cohagen is yelling at him, he's almost like, "Sorry, boss." Like he's like got these emotions, and then he's married to Sharon Stone,
Yeah.
which is an
Yeah.
interesting wrinkle, but is never really developed. You feel like he would kill Hauser or Quaid no matter what because it's his job, not because like you killed my wife.
Well,
And then he gets his arms ripped off for his trouble.
I know. Well, I think he gets more resolved that he's going to go after him once Sharon Stone is killed.
Yeah, but there's a movie where
But-
he's the hero.
That's
He's trying
true.
to get this crazy ex-secret agent guy who's
Right.
screwing everything up.
And like, he's told, no, don't kill him. So he doesn't kill him.
Right.
But then he gets the okay and he's like, it's about time.
It's about time, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell Gul Dukat to get all the guns out.
Right, exactly.
Marco Limo's also a guy who once you know who he is, you'll see him here and there, but not as much as Robert Picardo. Guys everywhere.
I wish he was in it more.
Yeah.
So,
and Melina is a 0. I'm sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately.
She's supposed to be. Here's your casting, right? And she hasn't been in a ton of stuff. Rachel Ticotin. She's supposed to be. So we'll talk about how Sharon Stone is maybe not a great actress for our next film,
right?
But she is Sharon Stone.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
He's like, oh boy, my humdrum life. Forget
with
this.
My hot wife.
Let's go with this like zero charisma brunette.
I know, right?
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because she's got a yellow bra on.
I know.
What? I don't know.
She's so crazy.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I know. And then like, what's his Kawato? Is that his name?
Kawato, yeah.
Yeah. The big reveal of Kawato. It's a good reveal. But the guy
introduced so late.
I know.
And then it's like, you've got to. It's really do this, do that. Blam, dead.
Exactly. I think that the TV show Sabrina the Teenage Witch did kind of a call out to Total Recall with Kawato.
Really?
They get attacked by this one demon who like makes them all fall asleep and have nightmares. And Aunt Hilda has a nightmare that she's dating the principal at Sabrina's school, and his twin brother, who he ate in the womb, is on his stomach.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it's a little callback to Total Recall, I think.
And then something else is like, the movie is not. I wouldn't put it past Verhoeven or the people that he writes with, his screenwriters, to really lean into is this real? Is this not real? But they don't.
No.
Like, it's in the movie. I do like the sort of, challenge to it where the guy's like, you're in a dream, Mr. Quaid.
Right.
Take that pill.
Right.
Swallow it.
Yeah. And then he sees that single bead of sweat.
Right. But you couldn't imagine that your dream could sweat. Like, why is that for you?
The clue.
Deciding factor.
I know.
And they have the dream. He's dreaming at the beginning. Basically, it's like, it's no Inception. Like, I remember people thinking or saying when it came out that it's like, oh, this is like, maybe this is all a dream, you know? And he is just having a schizoid embolism on the table or whatever.
Right.
But it's not.
No, it's not.
And I bet that the powers that be probably, said, we got to make it more clear that he's a hero. We wouldn't want to question that. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. You wouldn't want, Commando to wrap up, and it turns out that Matrix has just been in a hospital bed this entire time, dreaming that he's killing a guy with a pipe and saying, let off some steam. Although that would make more sense than what actually happens in the film. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like Melina, I don't know how she had her change of heart. I mean, it's a good thing that she did, because she comes and she beats up Sharon Stone. But like, where did she come from? How did she know he was there?
Yeah. There's, right. And a smarter movie would have him question, like, this is a little too easy. Yeah. Doesn't a dream just keep going and then?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, this is real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Doesn't mean I don't like it.
No, I still really enjoyed the film.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun still.
Yeah.
So, say goodbye to fun.
Okay. Bye, fun. It was nice knowing you.
We're going from sleazy and demure to just athletic. As we talk about the 1992 neo-noir erotic thriller Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
Which you can't, it made $350 million on a budget of $50 million.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, where was the $50 million?
I don't know.
You could have shot this for
probably
a quarter of that, and it would have been almost exactly the same. Driving up and down the stairs in San Francisco all the time?
Maybe the homes that they rented or, paid for shooting in or something like that.
Look, many famous rich people will donate their homes to be in a movie because
then
it's
they
cool.
can say that their home is in a movie.
And also when they resell it, it's the house from Basic Instinct or whatever.
Exactly.
I do a lot of research, so I tend to know things or seem like I know things that I just read off a screen. But Can you explain to me what the deal is with Michael Douglas and San Francisco?
I don't know what the connection is.
Now,
but
I know that one of his first big roles was in a TV series called Streets of San Francisco, where he played a copper or whatever. So we got that.
Yeah.
But we've seen a couple Michael Douglas movies in the past few months.
Yes.
And they all take place in San Francisco.
Yeah, I know.
Ant-Man?
Yeah.
The Game?
Yeah.
This?
I know.
What is the thing with him in San Francisco?
I don't know, but that's a really great question.
Except for the fact that his career started,
like I
said.
San Francisco.
but I mean...
Maybe he feels like it's a good luck place.
Sharon Stone doesn't live on Action Jackson Drive.
No.
She should. Be awesome.
Maybe he just feels like it's a good luck location for him. I don't know. It's not that far from LA, so...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. You know how Wall Street took place in San Francisco?
What? Stop.
What happens in Basic Instinct?
Well, we open on two people having sex. The woman...
Oh, that's right. You always have to start at the beginning.
Yeah. The woman ties the man to the bed with a white silk scarf, and then she starts stabbing him with an ice pick. And then we fast forward to when the cops come to the house, and it's a murder mystery. We never saw the woman's face. We just saw she had blonde hair. So it's kind of a secret from the audience as well.
Not really.
But not really.
There are other ways to identify someone, and when you see as much of the actress in this film as you do, it's clearly the same actress.
Yeah. But Michael Douglas and his partner Gus are assigned to the case. So they start looking into it, and they interview the guy's girlfriend, who's Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
And they suspect her, but they need...
She is Catherine Trammell.
Yes. And she is a writer. She's written some sleazy murder mystery novels. And one of them she wrote was like a old rock and roll star got killed by his girlfriend with an ice pick after they were having sex. So,
right. Which is that the climax of the book? These don't sound like very good books.
I know, right? I think it's a climax. And like her whole thing.
I won't touch that line if you want.
Okay. Anyways, her whole thing is like it's basically an alibi, and they said that this is what she was going to say. Like, why would I do?
Right. Stephen Tobolowsky comes on to tell us in no uncertain terms, and everything in this movie is at 11.
Yes.
The violence or the deaths, the horniness. This is the horniest movie ever made.
Oh, yeah.
But even like when people, let's say, for instance, you were in a bar and you ran into the IA officer that was prosecuting you over the accidental shooting deaths of some tourists that you did when you were high on cocaine. And let's say you had a disagreement. Would you be like, stop riding me, man. Oh, go home, you're drunk. Or would it be, hey, you better back off. You better back off. Like, would it be that? Because that's what it is.
That is what it is.
And then your sometime girlfriend comes in and she's like, you leave him alone.
Yeah.
And then you go, let's get out of here. And
you
go home and you have incredibly rough sex. And
yes.
Everything is just at 11 all the time in this film.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Except for the person who should be the most intense and is instead an icy 0. And that is Catherine Trammell.
Yeah.
I don't think this film works at all.
No.
I've heard people say, because it was a huge deal because it was controversial.
Yes.
And it spawned, unfortunately, like a whole line of these, like,
sleazy
sexy
murder
thriller. It basically gave, like, Madonna an extended lease on her acting career after Suddenly Seeking Susan. Now she could, like, do these F movies.
Yeah.
No thanks to that. And I've heard people, like, defend this as, like, it's like, look, it's not a bad, like, detective movie or whatever. And you've got the trappings of, the seduction and everything that's going on. I disagree.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that great.
No, it's
especially
not that
considering there's no mystery. She did it.
I know.
She did it the whole time.
I know.
It was her.
I know.
And I think that shows through in the sort of extremely punchy, like, middle act. Not Michael Douglas, looking great at 49 or whatever he was.
Yeah.
Where it's just him meeting people. He meets Sharon Stone. He meets Jean Tripplehorn. He meets Gus, his partner, George Dedenza or whatever. And it's just like him going, I don't think she didn't do it. God, man, you can't let her get. She's got that grade A puss, And he's like, she's crazy. I'm not crazy. She's crazy. And it's just him talking to three people over and over and over, having the same conversations for like 25 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
It's boring and it's repetitive.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
And the movie's 128 minutes long. It's like it could have been a RoboCop. It could have been real streamlined.
Yeah. And I think it gets sloppy towards the end too. I really do. Like,
I think the ultimate plot works out.
Okay.
Well, so back to my thing about Stephen Tobolowsky. He reads the book and he's like, she would be totally crazy to, I don't know how much Stephen Tobolowsky is, but like, she'll say that we said that it couldn't be her because why would she write a book about it?
Right.
But she is a stone cold killer who will eat your face or whatever.
Right.
It's not bad when I think about it. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. The faintest of praise with which to do my Stephen Tobolowsky impersonation. So if that's the whole thing, now another 2 hours and the movie's over.
Right.
But I don't understand why she did it. And I think it's the movie's fault that we never get a sense of who she is. Mm-hmm. She's a provocateur. We know that. Mm-hmm. And I think that they specifically, and this is written by Joe Esterhazy, who we talked about before. Supposedly he wrote this before Flashdance and that other movie that he's famous for. I can't remember. Like, apparently, like, this was always his baby. Like, he wanted to get this out there.
Okay.
This great idea he had.
Yeah.
And it's very specifically, we are never meant to feel comfortable with Catherine Trammell.
No, and you never do.
Every scene that we see her in, she is different. And I think they think that they were really pulling something off. They're really making her mercurial, and have all these faces. Mm-hmm. And instead, she's just completely inconsistent as a character.
Yeah.
And I know that she's lying and manipulating people for a lot of it, but you think there'd be some like core that we could go back to of the character. And there really isn't.
Yeah.
Up until the end where I think that she's kind of the good guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, this movie identifies with her.
Right.
She wins.
Yes.
And it's about the story of this, cold murderer who, I guess, finds love and decides to not be a murderer anymore.
Right.
Because she wants to be with Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
So looking at it from that perspective, it's like, what if the Joker was the good guy? Like, she pulls this off. Like, she writes this book years ago. Or was it recent? I can't remember. Anyway, she writes this book, offs her guy, and I guess she already knew who Shooter was. Yeah. Maybe she was obsessed with him before that, but we are not given access to her thoughts, so we don't know. And it's a perfect setup because he used to date a girl who she dated in college. Yep. And one of them was obsessed with the other. We never know which, but let's face it, Jean Triplehome's character is a little goofy. Yeah. And as far as we know, did kill the DA. Right. Although I don't think it's ever resolved.
No, it's not.
So she has this perfect situation where she's able to, also, she's a good writer, I guess, because she's able to, like, maybe she was just dating this rock star and she's like, well, I'm going to have to kill him, so I want to write a book about a lady that's dating a rock star. Right. And she just punches that out in 6 months. Yeah. It's so perfect. It is so, Stephen Tobolowsky's right. It's so perfect. Yeah. It's like a get out of murder free card. Yeah. You could just go, nobody would ever believe that this is real. Yes. I just go murder this guy.
Well, and
then Gus has got to go.
Yeah. So like Beth who's the psychologist, was like framed for these murders, but it's unclear how she knew to show up at the apartment building that Gus gets killed at. So that looks weird.
This is a time of like beepers and memos and stuff. I'm sure Catherine just told her, this is Nikki. I need to meet you or something like that.
Right. And she supposedly got a message from Gus, but the police later checked and found nothing.
Oh, well, yeah.
If she wasn't the killer and she used the stairs, this is my question.
Okay.
How did she not pass the killer or the rain slicker and all, or see the discarded items? Because she would have had to see the discarded items or the killer on the stairs, unless there's a separate staircase. And then why does she reach for her keys when Nikki goes to shoot her?
Because we set up the Bart Simpson keys. Also, he's not a cop anymore, right?
No, he's technically not supposed to be
for shooting people. Yeah. Solves murder by shooting one of his coworkers. Yeah. It's gonna be a push. They'll be like, "Good job. You want to take early retirement then?
Yes.
Live with your fabulously wealthy, like
Girlfriend.
novelist, former murder suspect girlfriend.
Yeah.
Who they talk about how the rock star she kills is rich. I think they say he's worth $5 million and he's got a club or something like that. She's worth like $130 million. Like,
I know.
She's way more famous and like rich than he is.
Yeah, I know.
Which they show with all of her sports cars and her houses and stuff like that.
Well, and it's not like he leaves a will giving her money to him, so it's not like that's the
there's no motive. Like, why would she kill him unless she just wanted
to see if she could get away with it or something?
She needed to attract Michael Douglas, but how did she know he'd get the case?
Yeah, I know.
How many years did you spend on this, Joe?
I know. And then also, Gus died the way he did in the Shooter book, but the only people who have seen that are Catherine, who wrote it herself, and Shooter.
Right.
So why would Beth kill Gus that way?
Yeah. How would she have access to the book?
Yeah, exactly.
The whole it's so crazy it can't be true alibi works for the rock star thing, but then, I also wrote a book called Shooter.
Yes.
Where it's about a San Francisco policeman high on coke.
Yeah.
Who avenges his partner's murder.
Right.
And then tonight, a San Francisco guy that's high on coke
yes.
will have to avenge his partner's murder. Yeah, it's 10 minutes after the credits roll and they put their clothes back on, the cops are going to want to talk to people.
Yeah, exactly. And if she decides to be good, it's a split second because, of course, as the audience sees, like underneath the bed, there's another ice pick. So it's supposed to be the clue that no, she really was the murderer all along.
Yeah,
and she's going to murder again, possibly.
Yeah, I don't believe any of it. I don't. Plus, like, what do you say? So first of all, I'm sure you can imagine, like, GLAAD was not happy when this movie came out.
No.
It does not depict gay people or bisexual people in a very good light.
No.
And I'm down with that. To Verhoeven's credit, he was cool with the protests. He was like, yeah, go ahead. That's your right to protest.
Yeah.
I mean, I made the movie, but whatever.
Right.
So that's not great. I just don't believe... First of all, I don't think Sharon Stone is very good in this. I mean...
Yeah.
As you pointed out, you definitely need her to be an object of, like, desire. And
yes.
she's good looking.
Yeah.
And so the camera loves her. So we got that part. But she's not... She doesn't seem really smart to me. She doesn't seem like... I know we're not supposed to know what her motivations are. We're supposed to wonder about it, but I don't think that she seems like that. Like there's an intelligence there working that we don't see.
Right.
It's supposed to be like a cat and mouse game between her and Nick, and I don't really see that.
Right.
She's just flat.
Yeah.
She's just kind of flat.
Mm-hmm.
The famous scene where she's being interrogated, and there's supposed to be like 5 or 6 like powerful men.
Yes.
Who are asking her these questions, and she's supposed to be running the room,
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe it. I don't know. I just
don't
think it's that great.
No. It's definitely got holes in it, I would say.
Why would you say that right after I talk about the interrogation scene?
I wasn't trying to do anything like that.
I talk about the most famous scene, and you're like,
okay.
There's definitely some holes there.
Oh, stop.
Why would you do that?
I wasn't trying to do anything.
You had to have done that. Stephen told me, she could not have done that on purpose.
I did not do it on purpose.
Say you say your piece about this film. Let's wrap this film up. Come on. It's not that great. I'll say one thing. It looks great.
Yeah.
You've got the previously mentioned Paul Verhoeven skill, and also you've got Jan de Bont, who is a famous director and cinematographer, doing the cinematography on this one. So they definitely... Many things happen at 4:59 p.m.
Right.
And it looks great. San Francisco's never looked better, but even in Venom. But I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
And it's the most for all the sex and murder, I think it's the most conventional of his films. He's not trying to do anything other than just tell
this
a
murder
sleazy
mystery.
story
Yeah.
with a hero that is barely a hero at all.
Yeah. And I think
killed 2 tourists.
I know.
What?
I know.
What was going on?
I have no idea.
Was it a drug buy down
I don't
down
know.
at the beach or something?
I don't know.
What? How did he kill 2 people?
I know. And, yeah, I know.
Blam.
Well, and I think that this movie is brought to you by Ice Picks because.
Well, they keep talking about how affordable they are.
Yeah,
and
at
available
Kmart.
at Kmart.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, they make it seem like it's an everyday household item because both her and Nikki use it.
It was written or conceived, 15 years in the late 70s. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't like, and then they have to have a line about like, oh, I like edges. Ice cubes have edges.
Yeah, I know.
Ice cube tray, ice cubes have edges.
I know. Like, why wouldn't you just have an ice cube tray?
Yeah.
It's
'cause,
weird.
Yeah, we're going to die on this hill
pick.
in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that did amazingly well. He could write his own ticket after that.
Yep.
And he hung out with Joe Esterhaz, and maybe there was some
coke
going on. There was definitely, because they made Showgirls.
Yeah.
Which we did not watch for this show,
but
did collapse Carol Co. along with Cutthroat Island. Gina Davis, poor woman. Gina Davis's career was hurt just as badly as Jesse Spano's career.
Wow.
After those 2 films.
Oh boy.
Why blame the star?
I don't know. That's weird.
Blame the insane mismanagement.
Yeah,
of
I know.
this unwieldy thing. So yeah, after that it was like, okay, well, I think he got hurt the least out of it. I'm not exactly sure why, but he was just delivering what was for sale when you're talking about Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah.
Talking about sex.
Yeah.
Talking about violence.
Yeah.
Talking about satire, I guess.
Yeah.
How ripe is the Las Vegas showgirl industry for satire? Thank God. Thank God somebody finally came along to tell us how ridiculous it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, at that point, it's like, all right, well, what do I do? Should I make something safe? Should I make something that people can really hook into, and show them that I'm back?
Yeah.
Or do I get together with a screenwriter from Robocop and my longtime cinematographer, cast a bunch of zeros from soap operas, and make a movie that is basically if fascists made a sci-fi movie in their own universe?
Yeah.
Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's
what he did.
Let's do that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens in Starship Troopers?
Well, first of all, it takes place in Buenos Aires and they whitewashed the whole thing, which is a little disconcerting to say the least. So we got Johnny Rico,
right,
who's a white dude, blonde white dude. You can't get any whiter than that. And his girlfriend Carmen, excuse me.
Carmen Ibanez.
Yeah.
So you want to hit the gas. You should have hit it on that one.
Yeah, okay.
Denise Richards.
Yeah. So it's just like, oh my God. And they're like in high school and she's talking about joining the troops to become a citizen. And she wants to be a pilot. And he decides he wants to go because of her, even though they wouldn't be together because he doesn't want to be a pilot. He's just going to be mobile infantry. And their friend, Doogie Howser, is also signing up.
Carl. He's
the
white.
whitest name ever.
Well, I don't... You look at Neil Patrick Harris, and I don't see a Carlos. That might have been a bridge too far.
Yeah. So his name is Carl.
Although Carl is a very German name.
Yeah, that's true.
So for a guy that ends up wearing a Gestapo hat at the end.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, question. Do you think that you can bring this in before 129 minutes goes by?
Yes,
the length of this film.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go. Come on, roll it.
So
what are we doing? Fighting the bugs.
They're fighting these giant bugs, which they suspect are intelligent and have sent asteroids to Earth. And they're trying to get people to rally and sign up to fight the bugs. And that's the basic thrust of the film.
Wow. This time around, I think you actually punched out a little early. But
Okay.
that's okay. We'll talk about what happens for sure.
Yeah.
It is a war movie, complete with propaganda that airs this is a return to form. 10 years later, it's a return to the Robocop form.
Yeah.
The whole, we're going to do this so straight, you're going to wonder if we even know what we're doing. And clearly we do.
Yeah.
I guess I can understand, but I can hardly believe that when this came out, there are people that were like, what a fascist. He made a movie. It's a fascist movie. It's like, yeah. Yeah. I lived in Holland in World War II.
Right.
I get what I'm doing.
Right.
Why don't you get what I'm doing?
Exactly.
Like, this is fascist.
Yeah.
I'm shocked to discover gambling in this establishment.
Right. Well,
and that was always his thing. He was like, if he said, like in an interview, they said, like, why did you do it? Why'd you go so hard into it? And he's like, if I make a movie that says fascism is bad, nobody cares. Nobody would listen to me. But if I make a movie
with satire,
that is basically, yeah, it's satire. But if I make a movie that is basically the movie that they would make, like if it's almost like an artifact from the world of this movie, like the Federation wants to make a movie about the heroic exploits of Johnny Rico.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, okay, the hayseed guy gets his head blown off in training, but otherwise nothing goes wrong. He does everything perfectly. He's a total hero. He's super confident. They kill all the bugs. There's barely any conflict in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There
Like
barely is.
it's like what's the movie like in Inglourious Bastards when they watch the movie that Daniel Bruhl or whatever is in, right?
Right.
And it's like about this German hero that sniped people from a tower or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like that. Mm-hmm. It's like it fell through a time warp and we get to see this movie.
Right.
And it's totally straight-faced, you know?
Yes. Well, and like
I'm
you
doing
said,
my part.
The videos that they show, it's as if it's on a website somewhere, and they always ask after you see it, do you want to learn more?
Yeah.
And you can click learn more, and so sometimes whoever is watching it, we don't see who it is.
Right.
They might click learn more, or they might X out of it, like, oh, I don't want to learn more about this.
Right, but they don't. And it's, I talk about like propaganda and fake news. Like it's so smart that they put you in the shoes or the eyes of an unknown member of this federation, because we see in the action of the film how horrific like the deaths are and how the people on top don't even know what they're doing.
Yes.
And are you going to follow Jake Busey into a
right.
bug fight? But from the perspective of that person who is just seeing the output of the propaganda machine, you're like, oh, Doogie Howser knows that we got to shoot him in the nuts or whatever. Great. And like, oh, look at all these little kids jumping on bugs. That makes me feel like they show bodies. Rob Bottin? Rob Bottin on this one?
I think so.
I think so too, although I'm not sure about it. But they have many, many, many like fake dead bodies.
Yeah, they do.
And before they really double down on how horrible this is, they cut to a dead dog.
Yeah.
And then they cut to that guy who goes, the only good bug's a dead bug.
Yeah.
So they're even with that, they're trying to manipulate you, because as an audience, we still somehow feel like, the death of an animal is worse than the death of a person.
Right.
So it just, oh, man, it's
brutal.
Really yeah. Well, Cinema Score, C+.
Yeah.
Audiences did not understand.
Well,
I don't think Rob Bottin was on this one.
Okay. Well, I do think it was, a very interesting take on a war film. And we make the enemies, something completely alien, and, gross, like incredibly gross, incredibly violent. They just attack people like, I think people see them as like being mindless, although it is discovered later that there is like a brain bug or a bug that kind of controls the other bugs and tells them what to do. And like, and at one point, one guy is like, they're just like us. They're coming up with, ways to trick us and like, draw us into a trap and that sort of thing.
This plasma fire isn't random.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody really messed up.
This is 51% on Metascore, or Metacritic.
Wow. That's really low.
If you, this sounds like a Craft Disservices movie.
It does sound like a Craft Disservices movie.
So anyway, people don't get it. Audiences didn't want it, sadly. It cost $105 million, which is
not
like
cheap.
$205 million in today money.
Yeah.
Not cheap. And it only made $121 million.
Oof.
Although that didn't stop there from being 4 more direct-to-video sequels.
Wow.
All written by Neumeier.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you know, there were a lot of, this came out, I remember seeing this when it came out.
Sure.
A lot of my fans were fans. A lot of my fans exist. A lot of my friends were Heinlein fans, and they complained about some of the changes from the book.
Okay.
Verhoeven didn't even read the book.
Really?
No, because the book, if you know, is very pro-military.
Oh, see.
Just for a super talented director, it is a stroke of genius that he takes one of the most pro-military, right on the border of fascist books of all time and makes it into like this huge like anti-war thing. Yeah. It's like totally anti-war.
Yeah.
And all the horrible things that happen to these people don't have to happen.
No.
They're just like, they sucked out his brain.
Yes.
Why are you people doing any of this?
I know.
And poor stupid Dina Meyer has the worst life. And then even Johnny Rico, he never makes a single decision. He's the perfect fascist hero, aka fool, in that he's drawn into this, to follow his girlfriend.
Denise Richards,
he becomes a squad leader because people die in front of him. Even when he's the leader, he's just parroting things that Michael Ironside used to say, and now he's risen to this level of of importance, in the army, and he never made any of these choices. It was just things just happened to him. He was just a child of fortune.
Yeah, he rises up in the ranks really fast. I mean, he becomes squad leader, and then
he gets like 2 promotions in like 3 hours, basically.
I know, and then like the hayseed guy gets shot in the head. And then he's not squad leader anymore. That's his only setback. And then, like, he meets up with Michael Ironside, and it's like, well, I need this. You're going to be it, And it just like, and his tactics are great because he used to play. It wasn't like football, but it's football. It's basically
arena football. But but it's like there. God bless Buenos Aires. I guess sport tactics, turning war into it's like a sport.
I know.
It's just a very Nazi kind of keep your body healthy and then you'll be a healthy soldier too. It's just gross.
The thing is about the football, however, is like at least they had girls playing it too. That was another like Verhoeven thing, and like also sharing the locker rooms and the showers.
Yep.
But like you said. Like, Des, I feel so sorry for her. Like, she's just, like, pining after Rico this entire time. He's just thinking about Denise Richards.
She's also, like everyone else, completely insane. They're all insane.
Well, that's true.
She comes in, and she apparently could have had a better posting, but she, of course, transfers
to where Rico is.
Yeah, and then Clancy Brown's like, all right, what do you got? She's like, immediate kung fu pose. Yeah. And then he beats the crap out of her and, like, chokes her half to death. And it's like, that's fine. Let's go get some grub. Like, these people they're not even human.
I know. And then,
intentionally.
Yes.
And so the genius of Verhoeven was, you have to wonder, like, who's in on the joke and who isn't. Because I think Casper Van Dien would have given the same performance, whether or not Paul Verhoeven had come up to him and said, be very blank, just be very, like, it would have been the same.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like Dina Meyer's a better actress than that.
Yeah.
Jake Busey? Who could say?
Yeah.
Who could say?
Yeah.
Denise Richards? Like...
Yeah, I know. But I just feel so sorry for Des. Like, her and Rico finally get together, and then shortly thereafter, she is brutally killed.
Yes.
And just dies.
And her last words are like, at least I got to have sex with you.
Yeah, I know. And it's like... It's like that was her entire reason for being, which is terrible.
And I got this from another podcast that I listened to about the show, but he doesn't even want to have sex with her until
Michael
he's ordered by Michael Ironside to have sex with her.
He's like, no, don't mess
Bang
up
that
what
woman,
you
officer.
Have. Yeah, exactly. Which is terrible.
I know. It's so messed up. And the fact that it got made at all. This is a Touchstone Pictures movie.
I know.
The fact that it got made at all on Disney's dime, by the way.
Crazy.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
And it basically ruined Verhoeven's career. What was left of it. That was kind of it for him. But God bless him for making this movie, which was voted, I think, number 20 of the best films of the 90s by Slant Magazine.
Oh, really?
So it's on people's lists. It's definitely something that,
it's a cult classic.
Yes, it's a cult classic, but it is appreciated more now. And again, very well made.
Yes.
There is parts in this. The Basil Polidorus is back for the music. The music's great.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the. It's got that thing. He just loves his like. That's why Basic Instinct is so rich, like in the cinematography. He just loves this kind of flat TV lighting, and I think it works for the documentary aspect of this film.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just kind of it makes the $100 million of sets and stuff look cheap sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cool moves of the camera. The CGI is great. It holds up really well.
Yeah, the bugs are
which
really
you would
disgusting.
not expect. Yeah, and there's a lot of practical effects too. And so it's just well made and.
I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, for as violent and as much sex and stuff like that is in it,
There's not that much sex.
There's not a lot.
In fact, except if he had not, there is one F word.
Yeah.
If you did not have, and then of course the horrific violence.
Yes.
A lot of which is committed against alien creatures.
That's
so if
true.
you had toned down the horrific impalings and beheadings and stuff like that, and cut the co-ed shower scene, this is a PG-13 movie.
No, you're right.
But no, he's going to get an R, and he's going to do it for the things that he wants.
Yes.
So it's not like everybody's like F this, F that. It's a very kind of sanitized story. I mean, these are soldiers.
Sure.
Soldiers don't swear.
Yeah, I know, right?
But instead, it's fairy tale-esque, almost. It's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all right, we got to stop talking about it.
Okay, all right.
Let's move on to the last film we're going to talk about, the first film after Verhoeven's return to his native
Netherlands.
the Holland, Netherlands, Dutch land, called Black Book.
Yes.
What happens in Black Book?
Black Book is about a Jewish woman in World War II in the Netherlands. She is living with a family on a farm somewhere, and the farm gets bombed. So she was talking with a sailor, so the sailor goes and hides her at his place. They get a tip from a guy saying, like, hey, the Nazis know you're here, or they're going to come looking for you, or something like that. So then they're like, well, you got to help us. And so he books some passage on this boat. And her family, her brother and her parents end up being there too. And everybody is gunned down by Nazis on this boat, except for her. She dives into the water and escapes. And the rest of the film is her, going under the radar and like hiding as a Jewish person and trying to escape the Nazis, but also being like a kind of like a double agent without really being a double agent, without having any training. She kind of goes undercover to try to win the affection of a Nazi officer who she meets on a train at one point. And so she tries to help the resistance is basically the main thrust of the movie. And there's a lot of backstabbing and double crosses as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
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 She's a spy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She spies.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Kind of.
She doesn't actually like... The one thing that she does that brings them actionable intelligence is
putting
she
the
puts that microphone in the thing.
In the office.
Which totally backfires on her later.
Yes.
Once this movie starts twisting up its own ass. This movie ends like 6 times.
Yeah.
It's like the Lord of the Rings.
Twists a whole bunch of times too. Yeah.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it right now. So anyway, yes, it's Paul Verhoeven. It's written by him and Gerard Soderman, who he collaborated with on Turkish Delight in some of his earlier movies. So it's kind of a return to form for him.
Sure.
There was a lot of trouble getting money for this film, just because, he didn't have the machinery of Hollywood behind it. It cost about 20 million euros, which turned out to be about $20 million, which this movie looks pretty good for only costing $20 million.
Yeah.
It only made about $27 million, though. That's not great.
Okay.
There's a lot of trouble kind of getting it going initially and getting the funding. Verhoeven himself got sick and was not able to really be in the production.
Yep.
And like a bunch of people from the production basically sued the production.
Including the star, right?
Well, yes and no. They sued the production because they were basically out of work because they were like on hold for this film, and just said basically like the court they contended that the court should order the Zwartboek, which is like the production company, means Black Book, to declare bankruptcy, because that would then allow them to
get paid somehow.
Yeah, they get paid in like the liquidation, but that would probably mean no movie. And they threw that out, I think, because I think Verhoeven knows people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think the Dutch saw this as like a big deal for Holland.
Yeah.
Tom Holland specifically, who's not in the film because he couldn't be. And Carice Van Houten, the star, was actually promised to a play. She had to go do a play, but then they were able to shoot the movie again. So they're like, well, you got to do this for us. And then the theater sued the production company. So it's kind of, I mean, the miracle is that it got made, I think. But it was, I don't know, somewhat successful. It was voted the best Dutch film ever by the Dutch.
Yeah, which is interesting.
It was submitted for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars and not accepted.
Wasn't even nominated.
Nope.
No.
It's not nominated. That was the right choice.
It's not a fantastic film.
I don't love it.
No.
I think that it's just way too random. It's just a bunch of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
And I understand this is what happens, I think, when you remove the satire.
Yes.
From Verhoeven's work.
Yes.
Because he set out to show in a modern kind of deconstructionalist way that not everybody was a hero.
Yeah.
Or even the heroes weren't perfect people.
Right.
But the way that is done in the movie is to have just an endless string of people revealing that they're not who you thought they were, or they've been bad the whole time, and it just it all piles up to the point where you just don't care. Mm-hmm. And like when the big like climactic switch is, I hope she can eat enough chocolate in time.
Yes.
That may have actually happened to somebody, and this is not based on a true story, but it's based on things that happened to actual people.
Events. Yeah. But
there was no Rachel, whatever her name
Rachel
is.
Stein.
Which also... What did you think about it ending with her in a kibbutz as the Suez Crisis is about to start?
I mean, it was just depressing.
Because Verhoeven's not Jewish, as far as I can tell.
No, not as far as I can tell either. But, I mean, what a bummer ending.
Like, her life is just a
constant war.
Yeah.
And, like, being under siege and, like...
Yeah. And
not knowing where your next...
dumped on her.
Yeah, not knowing where your next
Who was
meal
working
is gonna come from.
Something out.
Yeah, I know.
There.
I don't know.
It's Verhoeven just like... Usually it's people taking showers with people of the opposite sex. But what if it's... I'm just going to cover an actress in shit.
Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting choice, too. So it's like after the war is over, she... escapes for a little bit, but then she gets arrested.
But that's what you do. That's the whole... If you're going to do a war movie and it's going to involve the period after the war...
Yes.
You know, in Band of Brothers, you have a thing where it's like, yeah, everybody's partying, we did it, we liberated Arnhem or whatever. And then there's one quick shot of a bunch of ladies in their slips with shaved heads, and you're like, it's not always that great.
No.
If your point is to show that all sides of the story, you're really going to lean in. But you lean in... for a movie that has always been slightly above reality, suddenly becomes an effing cartoon. Yeah. Where a bunch of people come in and are like, whoa, we're partying. Hey, screw all of you. Screw you guys. Yeah, dance monkey. Blam, blam, blam. Yeah, take your shirt off. Now pour shit on her.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, what?
I know.
And the guy that saves her is, spoiler alert, the guy who is the bad guy.
Hans.
But has been the good guy the whole time.
Yes.
But is actually the bad guy.
Yes.
Or maybe not.
No, he's a bad guy.
He helped liberate Holland.
Yeah, I know.
But then he finds out that his sweetie likes one of those, is in love with a Nazi, and he's like, well, you gotta die.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, like, he's...
Oh, speaking of being horny.
Yeah.
This might be the horniest movie in the world. Forget what I said before.
Yeah.
About Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
It's neck and neck.
Yeah.
Necking.
Well, this is something that I don't understand. Like, she is, thinks forward so much. So she dyes her hair blonde. And then when she's told she needs to, like, attract this Nazi officer, she dyes her pubic hair blonde as well.
Yeah.
But she doesn't think, my hair's been blonde for a couple of weeks. Let's touch up my roots. That doesn't cross her mind, even though she's like thorough and perfectionist enough to think, I'm going to dye my pubic hair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, it just seems like a really simple like thing that she just totally didn't think about.
And it doesn't have any effect anyway, because even when she goes to bed with the guy's like, "You're a Jew, right?" And she's like, "No, I'm not a Jew." He knows she's a Jew.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whose hair, where, color, what, it doesn't matter. Like, none of it even works. That's the whole reason she did it.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of frustrating. It's
got those stamps, though.
Yeah, I know, right? So...
Did you like the fact that the titular Svart book doesn't even show up until like 2 hours into the movie?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Verhoeven could have made a bigger deal out of that. Like, the lawyer who has it, she visits multiple times and is part of the resistance. And, you know, her and the Nazi guy she's in love with, like, think that he's the one who double-crossed them.
Right.
It turns out that is not the case. But, I mean, you think that you see him writing in something. You think that they could have been like, oh, this is my black book. I keep track of everything. You know,
have the book narrate the movie.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah.
You know, like being all like, okay, you said the guy's name was what again? Okay.
Well, I mean, they do. Down. I mean, he pulls it out and like we see him write in it, but it doesn't. I guess what do you call it?
I know.
Dyed pubes? Like, what do you call them?
No.
And if anything, it's almost like he's on his best behavior, Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah.
And the best parts of the film are when he's going full Verhoeven.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy, but like, and you never get a sense. I think I turned to you like while we're watching the movie, and it's like they're celebrating Hitler's birthday. Like, the Russians are in Berlin at this point.
Yeah.
Or at least they're out. They're knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be more of a sense of desperation? Shouldn't people be getting their go bags ready and stuff?
Yes.
And you kind of get that because the party goes nuts. And like the most Verhoeven-esque scene of all is like all these officers are around what's her name, like her friend, and pouring champagne on her boobs and stuff like that. And it's like,
I know.
This feels like Paul Verhoeven. Like,
right.
I'm having fun now.
Right.
But none of it's really connected to what these officers should be feeling. The quote-unquote bad guy SS officer, shouldn't they all be bad?
Yeah.
He's sort of like your central casting, like ugly Nazi guy.
Yes.
But other than him, you know, ordering the deaths of her family, basically, he doesn't, otherwise he just kind of is just an administrator. He just kind of hangs around this building and doesn't really do any other bad things.
But like you said, he's like a cartoon Nazi, you know?
But cartoonish would be him. He's having sex with Molly or whatever her name is, but he's also beating her or something like that, or like doing horrible things.
Right.
He's got a pretty good deal going. Like, he just kills these rich Jews and takes their money, and then he goes back to his like Nazi desk job, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
It's weird.
It is weird.
And nobody looks. I don't know. I mean, it's the difference between having somebody who's like a real standout star, but like, nobody looks as good as Van Houten in the entire film.
That's true.
Like, she just totally stands out in the movie. Sometimes on purpose. Like, they throw her in like a Nazi dungeon and she's got her beautiful like red dress on or whatever. But it's just like, I don't really know. I feel like the script is not great, and this is another situation where I don't know if she's a good actress or not. I always like her. I like her on Game of Thrones, but her whole thing on Game of Thrones is just like act sexy and mysterious, which is, you know, pretty easy, I guess. And in this, she's never really asked to do much.
Game of Thrones.
She's the Red Woman.
Oh, okay. I did not realize that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So remember how I said before with the Basic Instinct?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not always having to see like somebody's face or hair color to know it's the same person.
Yeah.
Haven't you had enough time to determine it's the same person?
Yeah, I would think so, but I did not know.
Okay. She's boob blind.
Yeah.
Anyway, but she's not asked to really act at all. She just, her whole family dies, and she's like, yeah, that's pretty bad. And
she's pretty pissed about it, but
not really. She's just sort of like shocked.
Yeah.
You know, she's like in the water or something, and I know that she's been shot in the head or something, but she's just like, oh, yeah. And the one time that she acts is like when she finds out that Nazi guy was put to death, rightfully, for being the head of the Gestapo.
Yeah.
And she's like, will it ever end?
Yeah.
And it's sort of melodramatic. And I'm also like, will this movie ever end?
Well, and then he shoots her up with insulin, and you're like, oh, he's the bad guy.
Just gotta eat that chocolate.
Yeah, I know.
Eat it.
And then she jumps out of the window.
Woo!
And then he's like, get her! But the people who are celebrating him are having too much fun celebrating him that he gets lifted up into their arms.
No!
Yeah.
She gets
get
away.
Her,
not pick me up. I don't think it's great.
No.
So...
it's definitely violent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a war film.
But that's, again, that's, the most Verhoeven and probably some of the best parts.
Yeah.
That farmhouse is gone. There are no stones left on top of each other.
Yeah.
It was a real farmhouse, apparently, from the period, and was just, I think they probably had to fix it up to make it look
nice.
Like you could live there, because it was just an old house that was basically condemned. And they're like, can we blow it up? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they blew it up.
Yeah, they did.
They blew up real good.
Yeah.
So what did we learn?
Verhoeven does his best stuff in Hollywood, I think. With the help of other
apparently
people.
We did not watch his one of his most recent movies, Elle, from 2016.
That's true. That was technically a French film.
Yes, and won the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film. So
okay.
It's a return to form for him. Now, here's what the movie's about. It's about a woman, a rich, I think, sort of upper-class woman who is raped in her home and then sort of tries to, like, continue to live her life, that didn't happen to her. So it's about violence. It's about sex.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
About white lady.
Yeah.
I think the lesson is that this is like a tulip. He thrived and grew when given the right soil to grow in. Uh-huh. And Hollywood in the 90s didn't know that it was sanctioning a very subversive filmmaker who has a lot of bombast as well. They thought they were getting what was on the tin, which was boobs covered in blood.
Right.
And he was totally happy to bring you boobs covered in blood, but he was trying to bring you more than that. And he was able to do it while the jig was on. But once the jig was up, that was it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't, we were too smart for that, or we didn't want that anymore.
Right. I think.
And it's too bad.
It is too bad.
I wish we still wanted it.
And I think that Black Book had potential. I mean, I always think that World War II movies are interesting. But it just kept going. And I don't know that he really sat and thought about, like, what is the point of this story? Like, what is the story that I want to tell here?
He's not a screenwriter.
Yeah, I know.
He's not a screenwriter.
I know.
He shouldn't have wrote the screenplay.
No, he shouldn't have.
So, I mean, we didn't rate any of the films, but if you had to pick a favorite out of all of them?
Oh, probably Robocop. And
yeah, I don't want to pick the same one as you.
Well,
but,
it's a terrific film. And then I'd say after that, maybe Total Recall and Starship Troopers are kind of tied.
You can't tie.
They can't tie. Then I guess, oh boy, that's hard. I might like Starship Troopers a little bit more than Total Recall. What?
The exact same ratings for everything. Do we have to take a shower together now?
No.
It's total equality. Yeah, I would agree as well. Although I think I'd probably rather watch Total Recall at the drop of a hat than
Starship
Troopers. I do think Starship Troopers is a better movie.
I think you're asked to swallow quite a bit in Starship Troopers.
You're asked to swallow? What?
You're asked.
Oh, sorry. Is that his new sci-fi film he's working on?
No.
You're asked to swallow by Paul Verhoeven.
Stop it.
So that was fun. We haven't gone through somebody's oeuvre in a while, or at least part of it. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to do something like this in the future. In fact, we will be doing this in the future. It's on the list of things to do.
Yes.
So I hope you enjoyed it, and all of these films are available on Amazon. Mm-hmm. You can find them by clicking through our links on Just Enough Trope. We haven't mentioned that in a while, so I thought New Year, get back to that. We have what's called an account, an associate's account.
Yes.
So when you click through our links, which you can find through our banner ads on our website, justenoughtrope.com, or I'll put some links in our show notes for this show as well. When you click to Amazon through those links, you're kind of like on our time at that point.
Yeah.
So anything that you buy, a small percentage of that comes back to us, and it doesn't cost you anything.
That's right.
It's great. I mean, if they're going to own everybody and the robots are going to deliver us bad groceries from Whole Foods anyway, you might as well use it to our advantage. And they are so big that they can afford to cut us a little something. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it works. That helps keep the lights on when you do it. And it works for everything. It doesn't have to be, if you're going to rent Black Book from Amazon Prime or something like that.
Right.
Do it. I forgot to say that I would say watch all of these films for sure.
Yeah.
Some of them I don't think are as good as the other ones, but I think they're all worth a watch. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're going to get Black Book. You click through the link. You get it. We get a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to hang around Amazon and buy some other stuff, pubic hair dye, we don't know. We'll get a piece of that too. Whenever you click through this link, it kind of puts you in our window around your experience.
Right.
So that's a great way to support the show, even if you're just buying whatever you're going to buy anyway.
Exactly. Cuisinart.
Yeah. Yeah, to make your protein shake.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. I was going to say gross of toilet paper.
Oh, sure.
For when you get a big cauldron of shit dumped on you.
Oh, my gosh.
So give that a shot. Also, give this a shot. Follow us on social media at Facebook and Twitter, because that's how you can keep in touch with us. And we're always having discussions about this kind of stuff on there as well. If you're not subscribed to us through a pod-catching software like Apple iTunes, Podcast Man, Holland, Netherlands, Dutch, or Google Play Podcasts, Dutch, Holland, Netherlands guy, or Stitcher, or any of those other places, do that. Subscribe to the show, because it's going to come out as soon as it's ready, and you'll get it. Also, leave us a review. We want to hear from the fans. We want to know how you think that we're doing in this new year of our Lord 2019.
Yes.
And give us a rating at the very least, because, let's face it, we deserve it.
That's right.
We deserve to get a high rating from you, or at least I hope we do. If you feel like we do, give us that high rating, because it helps us move up in the ranks, and we get to reach more people. And that's what we're always looking to do. Mm-hmm. So give us 5 heads that can only say 2 weeks, but can also say, get ready for a surprise.
Yeah, at the last minute.
So it seems like a limited utility to that.
Yes.
Trying to think of how I could get through an entire conversation in a train compartment with just 2 weeks. Let's say you can say parts of it too.
Yeah.
So the words 2 weeks.
Yes.
And the words get ready for a surprise. And the individual phonemes that make up those words.
Yes.
So that would be your homework assignment. Go home and tell us how many words you could make anagram style out of all those syllable fragments.
Yes, that sounds like a plan.
Because otherwise it seems like it's specifically for throwing it at somebody.
Yes.
And then just as a taunt, it goes, get ready for a surprise.
Yeah.
But just have that lady record a couple more things.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Sounds good.
Help you get through customs.
Yeah.
Because she was through.
I know, right?
She was totally through. That kid, he was signed off, stamped it. He was
Yes.
just making conversation at that point.
Yes.
Those weren't official questions.
No, they weren't.
And then suddenly you screw up and you got Goldacon on your ass.
I know, right?
You don't want that.
No, you don't.
So give us 5 stars instead. We'd appreciate it. That's it. We're going to be back next week to talk about something different as per usual. But until then, stay cool. Summer rocks forever, yearbook style. And we're signing off from your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Haha.
Keep the geek fires burning.